What is unethical as fuck, but is extremely common practice in the business world? Paying invoices late. Especially big companies that pay a few months late. It kills small business, and seems to be quite normal here in the UK. My father did some work on a solicitor's building, and they didn't pay. My mother noticed after a month they hadn't paid, and went up to have a word. The receptionist said that's fine. I'll get it sorted, and we'll post the check to you. My mother said I live across the road. I can see my house from here. I'll just take the check. The receptionist said I'll need to get the owner to write the check. My mother said I can wait. The receptionist went back to work. My mother waited. The receptionist did nothing further to get the check, and was talking to clients in the waiting area. My mother confronted her, and said it's cool. She can just go through to the back room, and talk to the owner. The receptionist called the owner in. Whole bunch of arguments and bloody haggling for time in front of the clients. My father got paid. In front of the clients. Good lol, make the clients aware that the owner will try to dodge paying them. Signing people up for shit as add-ons to an existing bill, and hoping they don't notice the extra charges. Doing illegal shit to make $20 million then getting caught, and paying a $5 million fine. These kinds of fines should scale relative to how much you made doing the illegal thing. Letting an employee go / easing them out instead of addressing a situation they brought up. Listen, we're gonna need you to go ahead and move your desk down to the basement. Not including wage info in the job posting. At least post the range or minimum for the position. The salary is dependent on experience. Then they inflate the job requirements, so they justify paying you less, since you don't have all the experience they want. It's shady to give dedicated, long-term employees a measly 2-3% annual raise, if any at all, while hiring less experienced people for the same, or higher, salary, than the experienced employee. It essentially punishes loyal employees. And they wonder why the recent generations tend to company hop more. No loyalty from the company? Don't expect any from the employees. Consistently making salaried exempt employees work 10+ hours overtime a week, in order to avoid hiring more staff. But at the same time using a 40-hour work week, to calculate things like PTO. Rocketing the price of stuff, and putting a sale. In Australia, Subway claimed footlong was a trademark name, and not a suggestion of sizing, after many people pointed out their subs were well under a foot long. I'm pretty sure they got sued, and had to actually make the footlong a foot long. Working when you are sick. I have heard stories of bosses forcing people to come in despite being extremely ill. Also, I just wish that it would be mandatory schedule length of at least 2 weeks, if the hours are not the same every day. Mine changes weekly, and it's hard to plan anything. Ugh, I know what you mean about scheduling. I worked at a grocery store that gave you your schedule on Friday, and you'd have to wait to Friday to know if you worked Saturday or not. Absolutely absurd. Making you pay more for printing your own damn tickets at home. StubHub, Ticketmaster, etc. Ugh, StubHub is a den of thieves. Using your employment as leverage to keep your mouth shut. For example, a temp agency I worked through tried to deduct the cost of PPE from my paycheck. I told them that legally, employers need to provide PPE to their employees, not sell it to them. They threatened to fire me. I reported them to OSHA. They got fined, and had to reimburse everyone their $15 deduction for PPE. Temp agencies are fucking scams. A company having a business model that relies on charging fees for breaking its own rules without justification for them. Nominal weights and measures that don't match actual weights and measures. My company sells by the each, but each item has a nominal weight. We intentionally produce our product approximately 10% light, to save raw material costs. That sounds illegal as fuck. They're probably within the legally permitted margin of error. But they gotta be very precise in their impreciseness, or they could go way below marginal weight. Oops, our mistake. Pay the $10,000 fine. Okay, that's less than 1% of the profit we made. Pinky promise not to do it again. Does it again. Oops, I did it again. I've seen so many to name just one. Here's the worst I've seen. So, PCB, link in description. A highly toxic, highly carcinogenic stuff used mainly as coolant in power transformers. Heavy industries often have their own transformers, usually on the roof of their building. When these transformers get old, they need to be replaced, and the PCB need to be destroyed properly. However, doing this properly is very costly, so a solution is to wait for a rainy day, then pour the PCB in the gutters on the roof of the heavy industries building, where the power transformers typically are. This way they disperse on the ground and no one is the wiser. Well, since then, laws were changed to make sure that all power transformers are labeled and tracked by the government, to ensure their proper disposal. Still, sometimes a few older units get overlooked, and this is how I learned of this trick. The heavy industries building is in the middle of a large city, with kids playing nearby and all. Fuck these fuckers. You can contact OSHA or the EPA anonymously. You can. However, they seem to have to catch them in the act of doing it, according to the officer I spoke with. Fake promotions. There's a role you can apply for that doesn't have any extra pay or benefits, in which you do the same work as the role above that, which is higher paid, in the hopes that eventually you'll be the next in line to actually be given that next position. Except you won't. As long as it has a title, I'm jumping on that, updating my resume with the new title, and then applying for companies that have a job on par with the new title. Using unpaid intern as worker. They have the exact same tasks as everyone else. They work the same hours. Even more because they think that if they work more they will be noticed and hired. They won't. And it's rare that their supervisor take the time to teach them anything. They have to figure out things by themselves. Of course most struggle, and it's used as an excuse to not hire them. That sounds like slavery with extra steps. No, slaves have to be fed and bought. Interns are cheaper. Careful, deceptive wording. Up to 100 Mbps internet speeds means you get 5, 6 Mbps, and up to 100 for a moment here and there. Made with 100% chicken simply means that real chicken was utilized as an ingredient at some point. It's like saying a bottle of wine is made with 100% organic cork. Sugar-free means less sugar per serving than the minimum we have to report. The top rated underscore, usually followed by the specific study that ranked it best. Did you know you can pay a company to perform a study for you that's guaranteed to determine you're the best? I need to get me some of this organic cork wine. Government contracting, building a thing to specs, but not entirely up to full functionality, knowing the issues that will arise, doing nothing about it, and then make the government cut a whole different, and very profitable, contract to fix said problems. I do a lot of federal contracts. A lot of the waste here is because procurement officers don't know WTF they are talking about. I have tried endlessly to get specs right / more cost effective / more geared towards the application to no avail. In my experience, the people working for the feds don't give a shit if it's right. Convenience fees for paying online instead of mailing in a check / money order. Are you fucking kidding me? You should be giving me a discount for saving you labor costs of processing my payment. Comcast's pricing strategy, where they raise the price an absurd amount from one month to the next and just hope customers aren't paying attention or too passive to complain. Called Comcast Friday to try and lower my bill. I tell them I don't want the phone, any of the premium channels other than HBO. Give me regular internet instead of blast, and I don't need the DVR. They come back with packages that are $20 to $50 more than what I'm currently paying. Let me get this straight. I drop STARZ, Showtime, Cinemax, phone line, go to a slower internet package, and give up the DVR box and I pay more. How does this make sense? Just tell them you're going to straight up cancel if they don't give you lower cost internet. This backfired on my brother. They were like, okay, you're cancelled, and he was too proud to say, oh, I'm just kidding. He probably caught someone on their last day, lol. Me and everyone I know with Comcast have been doing this for years and it never fails. The key is to basically threaten to cancel, but in as much of a pleasant / sympathetic way as possible. They are basically told to give discounted rates to appease customers, but they are human too. They'll be a lot more willing to cut your rate if you're nice. Look man, I just can't afford this. I'm going to need to cancel. Thanks for trying to help. Literally anything a corporation does that they can be fined for is taken into account as a business expense. If it's cheaper to pay an illegal dumping fine than it is to change the way they process waste, nothing will be done to stop the illegal dumping. Can confirm. My company didn't want to encrypt its computers and just pay the fine every year. They didn't do it until the fine got astronomically huge. Then they rushed through encryption and killed like 200 computers. costing themselves about $1,000 per machine. I've learned businesses are not smart. They just set things up so that the circumstances are inconsequential when they make bad choices. People give no fucks about your luggage or parcel. They get dropped, thrown around every day behind the closed door, especially heavy items. I remember looking out the plane window at the luggage handlers. I do not recommend this. In Birmingham, US, they were dropping boxes, kicking things half-heartedly to push them in, acting like junior high kids given chores they don't want to do. Their orange vests hung shoddily from their shoulders as they shuffled around on the tarmac. Many hours later we arrived in Japan. The luggage handlers had white gloves. Seriously. Signaled each other in their transport carts. Signaled and stopped even when no one seemed near. Really took their jobs seriously. I don't suggest nothing ever gets lost in Japan, and I know Japan isn't perfect, but the difference was striking. Japan isn't perfect. That's true. They did have a train that left 20 seconds early last week. It made world news. 20 whole seconds? What is this? The Middle Ages? For Japan's rail system, a deviation of +/-6 seconds is considered off schedule. They really dropped the ball on that one. There's only one honorable thing left to do. Sudoku? Getting a lot more common in my industry is hiring interns all the time. After their few months of training they get replaced by next batch. With the shortage of jobs and need for experience, many people fresh out of college will happily work for free to gain experience. Unpaid interns cannot replace hired workers. That might be illegal. Not in my country. There was a post about things your employer don't want the public to know, and I was amazed to see people say how common it was for a woman to be hired, in the tech industry mainly, basically to flirt with potential male business clients. The aim was to make them nervous/uncomfortable, so the company would have the upper hand in negotiations. Wouldn't exactly call that ethical. Found what I was referring to. It was on r/confession. Link in description. Selling customer data. If you're providing a free service, I can't fault you for selling my data. But if I'm paying for your goddamn internet, then fuck you for selling my data. Comcast. Double dipping assholes. Don't forget they made Netflix pay to not throttle their content. Triple dipping right there. Some degree of false advertising. My food never looks like it does on the menu. My internet is never as fast as advertised. The contractor never finishes when he says he will. My internet is never as fast as advertised. That's why the advertised speed always says up to, so it's not technically false advertising. Still scummy as fuck, though. Reminds me of those save up to 50% or more. Haha. So I can save anywhere from 0% to 100%. Useful. Hire a batch of temps as temp to hire, with the supposed idea being that you'll be offered a permanent position at the end of the temp period with satisfactory performance. Set performance standards that are borderline physically impossible to meet after the end of the temp period. Be like, sorry guys, can't hire you on because you didn't meet our performance standards. Hire a new batch of temps. A plastics company I temped for did this at their injection molding plant. The whole complex was run with basically a skeleton crew of company workers/admin, with a constantly rotating batch of temps making up the bulk of the workforce. What would be the benefit of this? Wouldn't they just have a bunch of constantly less than competent workers? You hire temps to do low skill repetitive labor work, such as manual packing. Temp workers are cheaper, even with the extra fees going to the temp org. You can have them do risky work and cycle them, whereas a long-term employee might get a repetitive injury after years bending to pack boxes, and you don't have spelling to deal with them. Sexual harassment case. Call the agency and have them replaced. I see now. Okay, so this is becoming really common in my neck of the woods. Basically a company needs someone to fill a role. Instead of giving them a job and all the perks like paid holidays etc, they instead hire you as a contractor. This means you still have to play by their rules as to when they want you in, but you get none of the perks besides your wage. No sick days, no holidays, nothing. FWIW. In the US this can get a company in trouble both with the IRS and the state unemployment agency. Basically, if you have to behave like an employee and are treated like an employee in most respects, then you are a statutory employee. I've been through PA state audits in which I had to prove that my subs were truly subs, and that I wasn't bypassing labor and IRS regulations. A company can still get away with it sometimes, but there are some rules.
Companies that stifle competition/innovation by buying smaller companies just to stop what the smaller company is doing. Cough Google cough.